Politics in the European Union. The European Union, through a hybrid system of the supranational and international decision making and the according to the principles of conferral and of subsidiaries laws made subsidiaries laws made by the European Union institution are passed in a variety of the form. Generally speaking, they can be classified into two groups: those which can into force without the necessities for national implementation measures, and those which specifically require national implementation measures. Constitutionally, the European Union bears some resemblance to both a confederation and federation, but has not formally defined itself as either. It is more integrated than a traditional confederation of a state because of a general level of the government widely employs qualified majority voting in some decision making among the member states rather than relying exclusively on unanimity. It is less integrated than a federal state because it is not a state in its own rights. Sovereignty continues to flow from the bottom from the several peoples of the separate member states rather than from a single undifferentiated whole. This is reflected on the in fact that the member states remains the master of the treaties, retaining control over the allocation of competence to the union through constitutional change. In that they retain control of the use of the armed forces, they retain control of the taxation, and in that they retain a right of the unilateral withdrawal from the union under Article 50 of the Treaty on European Union. In addition, the principle of the subsidiarity requires that only those matters that need to be determined collectively are so determined. The European Union has seven principal decision-making bodies in its institutions: the European Parliament, the European Council, and the Council of the European Union, the European Commission, the Court of Justice of the European Union, the Union Central Bank, and the European Court of the Auditors. Competence is scrutinizing and amending legislation is shared between the Council of the European Union and the Union Parliament, while executing tasks are performed by the European Commission and in a limited capacity by the European Councils. The monetary policy of the Eurozone is determined by the European Central Bank. The interpretations on the applications of European laws and the treaties are ensured by the Court of Justice of the European Union. The European Union budget is scrutinized by the European Court of the Auditors. They are also members of the ancillary bodies which advise the European Union or operate in a specific areas. The European Council, which sets the general political directions and priorities of the Union by the gathering together its member states, head of states, government. The conclusion of its summits are adopted by the consensus. The European Commission, the only institution empowered to propose legislation, served as the guardian of the treaties. It consisted of the executive cabinet of the public officials led by a indirectly elected president. This collegial commission managed and directly the commission permanently civil service. It turns the consensus objectives of the European Council into the legislative proposals. The Council of the European Union bring together ministers of the member states, government departments. It serves to represent the various governments directly, and its approval is required for any proposal to enter into law. The European Parliament consists of 705 directly elected representatives. It shares with the Council of the European equal legislative power to amend, approve, or reject Commission proposals for most areas of European Union legislation. Its powers are limited in areas where member states view sovereignty to be of primary concern. It elects the Commission President, must improve the colleagues of the commissions, and vote to remove them collectively from office. The Court of Justice of the European Union ensures the uniform application of European laws and resolve the disputes between the European institutions and the member states and the against European institutions on behalf of the individuals. The European Union, European Central Bank is responsible for monetary stability within the member states. The European countries of the auditors investigates the proper management of the finance within both the European entities and the European Union. Funding provide to its member states as well as providing oversight and advice. Its can refer unresolved issues to the European Country Court of Justice to arbitrate on any illegal irregularities. European policy is in general promulgated by the European directives, which are then implemented in the domestic legislation of its member states, and European regulations which are immediately enforceable in all member states. Lobbying at European Union level by special interest groups is regulated to try to balance the aspiration of the private initiatives with the public interest decision making process.